Voice America. I'm Shereen Bhan. We're in Washington, D.C., where the Prime Minister is meeting with President Barack Obama. Joining me today is the Chairman of the Mahindra Group, Anand Mahindra. Mahindra, thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 and CNN IBN. Before I talk to you about the Prime Minister's sales pitch to corporate America, let me ask you about the economic story back home. We've seen the Reserve Bank announce its credit policy along expected lines, no changes to any of the key rates, which is what the street was expecting. It's unlikely that we are going to see rates come down anytime soon, perhaps not even at the end of this financial year. Credit growth continues to be sluggish. How real is a turnaround in the economy to your mind?
We're going through a very critical period right now. Everybody's been holding their breath, waiting for this festival season to start. And we're all expecting some kind of magic to take place. It's a little early, but it is very important. How the season goes is going to tell us whether the revival is real or not. It's a little premature, Shereen, for me to answer you. I'm on the phone every day asking our salespeople, is it real? There is still that magic rebound we wanted, hasn't happened yet. So yes, you're right. It's not real yet. But let's not, the jury's out. Let's wait till the festival period is over.
But just another question on the interest rates and the possibility of rates staying where they are at least till the end of this financial year. The Reserve Bank has always maintained that corporate India's claim that interest rates will lead to an economic rebound is somewhat exaggerated. How would you comment on that and the fact that, interest rates are unlikely to move lower anytime soon?
I think the governor of the RBI has done an excellent job and the right thing in waiting and watching for as long as he has. The fight against inflation, the fight to prevent it from rearing its ugly head is the more important one. However, I think there is a kind of convergence of some benevolent events. If you look at commodity prices, for example, have been remarkably low. So given that there is still a little bit of a lag on the IIP, I think he should probably, in my opinion, and he doesn't take advice from anyone, but I would say it may be time to begin thinking about lowering rates. I think a propitious time is coming in.
Now let's talk about Mr. Modi in America making the sales pitch for the India story. Do you believe that investors are buying what Mr. Modi is selling? Because let me quote to you the reactions that I've got. Everyone's optimistic. Some are nervously optimistic about India, some are guardedly optimistic about India, and some are cautiously optimistic about India. How are you reading the mood and sentiment?
I love those phrases. They're such nice cliches, isn't it? Well, I'm going to use that as a takeoff point. I think now in America, we have to move beyond cliches. We have to, if you're going to conquer America, the conquest has to move beyond cliches. The whole business about the largest democracy and the oldest democracy, our relationship has been ruled by cliches for too long. People are now looking to see real progress on the ground. I believe they have been very impressed with what they've seen of Mr. Modi so far. They recognize that what India needed was a kind of conductor for the orchestra. They've never doubted the talent of the individual musicians in the orchestra. The problem is, has there been the right conductor with the right piece of music for us to follow? I believe what this mission is doing in the first instance, and that's very important, is establishing that Mr. Modi is that conductor everyone was waiting for. But yes, there is a guardedness about the fact that will he be able to deliver? And that should be everybody's concern, including Mr. Modi's. He's set very high expectations while he's here. And the downside of high expectations is you have to deliver.
Absolutely. Speaking about delivery and speaking about the reform agenda and pushing that forward, investors that we've been speaking to continue to be concerned about retrospective issues, retrospective tax in particular, because there we actually haven't seen any changes being made by this government. The setting up of a committee seems like a bit of a cop-out, so people are not entirely convinced, even though the government has said that the era of retrospective action is over. Has that continued to be a dominant concern in your conversations as well?
Well, it's interesting you ask me because I have a kind of very fresh conversation to report on. Yesterday, I was at the Council on Foreign Relations, and I was flanked by two important U.S. businessmen. And I turned to them before Mr. Modi started speaking and asked them, what is your expectation? And particularly on the tax issue. And I promised I wouldn't quote the person, but he said, as long as he makes an unequivocal statement that we are not going to let this happen in future.
Yeah.
And that, frankly, there are political compulsions or other issues by which I have to find a resolution to the past issue. But I commit that in the future we will have a more enlightened and policy which will not include retrospective taxation. They're fine with that. They said a bold statement such as that would be fine.
Okay, so allies as far as retrospective action and retrospective tax in particular, those concerns have been allayed.
Well, this is a sample of one, as you know, the person who I was talking to. But I'm saying that I was happy to find that there is a practical approach to this. People are not sitting here saying, we want that act repealed, otherwise we don't look at India. They're saying we want a forward commitment from this man, and we want a resolution, an amicable resolution to the past. You know,
an area of opportunity that everybody's talking about is defense, where the FDI limit has been hiked now to 49%. Some investors believe that this government could have been bolder. The government has made it very clear that you can go beyond 49% if there is transfer of technology. That's an area of interest for you as well. What are people saying to you as far as defense cooperation and defense joint ventures are concerned in specific?
They are pleased that there has been movement on that score, that there has been a raising of that limit. You know, I've always said that the problem was not so much the limit, the FDI limit, it was the spending of the government. You're coming to India to do business with what you perceive to be one of the largest arms importers in the world. So everybody's seeing this bonanza. The bonanza wasn't happening. The process of purchase, of procurement was paralyzed. And I think that is far more important. If we see the revival of reasonable, predictable procurement in a transparent manner, that is going to do far more to get investment into defense rather than fixating ourselves on this
the
limit.
cap.
And the cap, frankly, 49% has been welcomed. It's fine.
So do you believe that we are going to see a lot more money coming into the defense sector, more JVs being inked, or do you believe it will continue to be wait and watch for a bit longer?
I think it's wait and watch for a little while to see whether the procurement process has been truly and sustainably revived.
Quick question before we head into a break. In terms of other key reforms, you know, land acquisition is something that people talk about. Labor reforms is something people talk about. All of this requires legislative action. You know, there is a concern on whether this government will be able to push that through or not. What are the other reforms that people have talked to you about that they would like to see the government undertake?
There is a lot of talk. Well, the large reforms that people have talked about here are related to land and to labor laws. And of course, they've been watching with a very great concern on resource, such as the coal issue. They recognize that the judgment that came recently is a process of law. They understand that this should result in greater transparency in the future, but they want to see action. They want to see that when they come into India, are they going to get answers on these? I think there's been a great deal of encouragement by the Make in India single window approach, the fact that your queries will be answered. They are worried about having to go from pillar to post to find out what's happening. They need someone to join the dots for them in the government. If that's done, I think that will go a long way in making sure that people come in. Because every flaw with the land acquisition bill, every clause of labor reform that they want is not going to get sorted out tomorrow, and they understand that.
Okay, on that note, we'll take a break, but when we return, we continue our conversation with the chairman of the Mahindra Group, Anand Mahindra. Come back to us. You're watching our special show, Modi Meets America. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C.